Hello and welcome back to Lorcana Villain. My name is Baker and today we'll be looking at all of the Sapphire cards from the upcoming Lorcana set, Shimmering Skies. Yesterday we started off by reviewing all of the Amber cards. If you missed that, it will be linked down below. But I want to dive straight in. A quick shout out to the channel sponsors, Cardmarket. If you're looking for some Lorcana singles at competitive rates, check out Cardmarket. But let's get stuck right in and look at all the Sapphire cards. I will once again be using the Mushu report as my resource to look through all of these cards. A huge thank you to the Mushu report. And we're going to start off with a character that I'm very happy to see. We have King Candy, Sovereign of Sugar, 1 cost Ingable, 2/2, quest for 1. My sweet subjects, I can without a pinch of hesitation assure you that I have never been so happy. I absolutely love him. I did a video quite a while back now, I think 5-6 months ago, of 5 villains that I want to see come to Lorcana, and this man was on the list. I'm a big fan of this character. Yeah, just a generic 1-drop, but we are very glad to have that because we also have King Candy, Sweet Abomination, which is, I'm more impressed than I probably should be at that sub-name. It's not that clever, but I was impressed. 5 cost Ingable, 3/3, quest for 2, shift 3 on top of our baby King Candy, and changing the code. When you play this character, you may draw 2 cards, then put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. There's also an enchanted of this card, which is absolutely stunning. If I can find a decent enough image, I'll have it up on the screen now. But yeah, interesting card. Yeah, when you did I read the effect? When you play this character, you can draw 2 cards, then put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. There it is, maybe again. So yeah, this is an okay effect. It's an immediate +1, although you just lost the King Candy to put down this one, and then you're drawing 2 and then 1 to the bottom, so you're actually equalizing in terms of card count, but it is fishing through your deck, putting something to the bottom that you don't need. It might be something that's completely irrelevant in that particular matchup. So yeah, you are thinning your deck. Being uninkable, I think, really hurts this. Questing for 2's okay. It's alright. It's probably going to be good in limited. Unfortunately, at the moment, I don't think it's good enough to be breaking the meta, but I certainly hope we get more powerful King Candy cards. There's one in Ruby of Turbo. Yeah, his name's Turbo or Turbo something, but his effect is his name also reads as King Candy for the benefit of the shifting, which is a pretty cool effect. And yeah, I'm a big fan of this art, but probably doesn't see play. Next up, we've got Chiara, Impressive Daughter, 4 cost Ingable, 4/3, quest for 2. I'm a big old fan of the Emperor's New Groove. It always obviously makes me think of my boy Breezy, who'd be repping the Emperor hard. But yeah, this has always been one of my favourite Disney films, and it's my mum's favourite. I think it's a favourite. It's definitely a favourite villain. She loves Yzma. I need to get her to do the Yzma imprint, like the smile at some point. But yeah, this is an okay stat line, and considering it quest for 2 for a 4 cost. Not a lot to say here, really. Obviously, it's nothing too special, but I want to jump straight from her to Scrooge McDuck, aficionado of antiques. I may be completely butchering that, but he's a 4 cost uninkable 5/5 quest for 2, which is actually a really good stat line for a 4 cost character. The fact that he's uninkable really like, if this was inkable, this would be really good. But even being uninkable, it might still be okay. I want to very quickly go back to an Amber card that I reviewed the other day, the Moana, Determined Explorer, 3 cost uninkable, 3/4 quest for 2, who I more or less glazed over in the review. I said it may be relevant just because her name's Moana, or the fact that she's a princess. But I did say she's got a good stat line, but my main opinion really is that her being uninkable really hurts her. But what I didn't say is the other reason I think that she's just not as good and not worth paying much attention to is just because she falls to Fox. And yes, she trades, but I think that still makes her not good enough. But this Scrooge McDuck obviously costs 1 more, but survives takes out the Fox, survives the hit. And yeah, this is just a really good stat line. It also trades with Maui, which is super good. And if you use this on the play, then you get 2 quests out of this before their Maui comes down anyway. So yeah, when I first saw this, I didn't give it much thought, but as I was looking over the cards before jumping into this review and just having a little think about things, I think it might be alright, you know. It's not... I was about to say it's not changing the meta, but in a way, like, it's quite different to what Sapphire normally wants to do, especially if they're a one-jump build. Who skip to 4, and again 4 is competitive because of Flaversham, but it's not always preferable to go Flaversham, and if you're with Steel, sometimes you want to go down the road of a whole new world anyway. Yeah, I actually think this is alright and could end up seeing some aggro play. I'm not expecting it to be in the best deck or anything, but I think there could be a deck that could utilise this and have some success. I think we'll see it in a top cut list before end of format. Yeah, interesting. Next up, we got Prince John, Opportunistic Briber. Love this art, and there's a few that have got this similar art. They're all trying to get into the club. But my man is a 3-cost inkable 1/5 quest for 1, and taxes never fail me. Whenever you play an item, this character gets +2 strength this turn. I don't think this is anything too crazy. I mean, obviously, if you do play the item, a 3/5 stat line on a 3-cost is okay. I don't think it's anything too special. Maybe if it had the extra lore, but even then, I don't think this is necessarily good enough. You put this down on 3, and then on 4, sure, you play a Porpsicle, and then I don't know. The 5 willpower is okay. It's also a brawl target, probably not a great brawl target, but a target nonetheless. Even just like towards the end of set 4, we've been seeing a little bit more of the Amber Emerald deck doing well, and I think that's going to continue into next format. And I think the Muses is going to be a bit more prevalent than it was and Under the Sea are going to be more prevalent. So yeah, I don't think this is good enough personally. Next up, we got Merlin back from the Bermudas. Absolutely love it. This art is top tier. 4-cost inkable, 1/4, quest for 2, and long live the king. Your character's named Arthur, gain resist 2. Unfortunately, I think this is hot garbage at the moment. Our Arthurs are... We're getting a new 1-cost uninkable in Ruby. We've already got the best of the Arthurs that we've had so far, the Amethyst one, who bounces a character and gains lore, but even that doesn't see play. We've got a 4-cost inkable 4/3 quest for 2 in Emerald, and we're getting a new Steel one. None of these are blue. Of course, you could be playing blue with one of these colours to have access to Arthur, but I just the ability isn't doing enough. Absolutely in love with the art. He is, however, a shift target for the Floodborn Merlin when we get to him, so maybe that's something. Because there's also the 4-cost inkable from Chapter 1, who's a 3/4 quest for 1 and support. I don't know which of the two you'd rather play, but yeah, as a shift target, it's better than nothing. Next up, we got Parcher, Emperor's Guide. Love this art. I love this character as well. He's very sweet. 3-cost inkable, 0/4, quest for 2. And we've got helpful supplies at the start of your turn if you have an item in play, gain 1 lore. And perfect directions at the start of your turn if you have a location in play, gain 1 lore. So yeah, super interesting effect. Really cool concept that if you have an item and a location, then this is gaining you 2 lore at the beginning of each turn. He quests for 2. I don't know how often you would leave him vulnerable to be challenged and removed, as opposed to just wanting him to sit there and get this passive gain. Unfortunately, he's a brawl target, and that's going to be quite a boring sentence that you're going to hear a lot over the course of these reviews, very much akin to the whole dies the Medusa. But these are things that we absolutely need to account for, and yeah, it's a really super interesting effect. I don't think it's good enough. But I do think it's our cheapest Parcher, so maybe it's a shift target? And who knows, if location decks do start getting a little bit better, then maybe it's worth the risk that he can be brawled, or the Muses, whatever it might be, if we can more consistently know that we're gaining 2 at the start of each turn. I don't know, I don't think now, in the future, depending on how good locations get, possibly. Alright, next up we've got the Queen, fairest in the land. In love with this art. She's a 5-cost inkable, 2/6, quests for 1, and she's a Floodborn. Shift 3, which is really nice. Ward, which is super, super nice. And Reflections of Vanity. This character gets +1 lore for each character named the Queen you have in play. Now, I think this is a bit of a sleeper, from what I can tell. Obviously, Ward is super helpful. Can't be Muses, Brawl, Medusa, things like that. So that is great. Obviously, you always need to be a little bit worried about Tremaine effects, beaking, and of course, the good old-fashioned beat prep. But yeah, there's a lot of things that having ward keeps this safe. 6 willpower is super nice. I wish this was 7. I really wish she survived Maui. But hey, whatever. So yeah, the way I'm reading this character gets +1 lore for each character name the queen you have in play. This should count her as well. That's been the case with similar effects, Mickey Musketeer, and there's probably others, but yeah, from what I can tell, this ability makes her questing for 2 anyway. And we actually have quite a lot of queens. First of all, also coming in this set, we have the queen cruelest of all. This artwork, top tier. 2 cost inkable, 0/4, quest for 1 and ward. She'd seen what the ink could do for other glimmers, but what could it do for her? Ooh, we setting something up, baby. But yeah, this stat line is obviously nothing to, like, this is just here to support this queen effect that we're looking at now, and I've got to imagine this is going to be a running theme for some of these queens, that they're going to benefit from having multiple on the board. It's going to be sort of like a not a rush deck, just a flood the board with queen sort of deck. And as far as cards go to support that sort of archetype, 2 is really cheap. 4 willpower is super nice. You're going to survive a lot, and you're not going to be sitting there questing anyway. And she has ward, so her 0 strength does not matter. So as a support for this new queen, I think that's perfectly acceptable. There's also from Ursa's Return, we got the 3 cost queen, 3 quest for 1 exert. Look at the top 4 items of your deck and put an item into your hand, and if it costs 3 or less, you can play it for free straight away. We got the Queen Mirror Seeker, 4 cost inkable. I think this was Into the Inklands, may have been Floodborn, I think Inklands. Calculating in vain. Whenever this character quests, you may look at the top 3 cards of your deck and put them back in any order. And then of course our cheapest queen being the 1-drop 2/2 from Amber, and of course the Floodborn from Amber is also very, very strong. There's also a couple in Amethyst. There's the Peddler Queen in Emerald. But yeah, those are our main queens really are in Sapphire and Amber. So assuming we're playing with Amber, playing the 1-drop queen, and then you could play the 2-drop queen, the new one that's coming, the 0/4 with ward. Turn 3, you play this. You're immediately questing for 3, which is pretty good for turn 3 with 6 willpower. That's asking quite a lot. And then if on a subsequent turn you're able to put out a 1-drop and a 2-drop queen, or whatever it might be, you could rack this lore up quite high, I think, quite easily. And again, then if you combine that with something like Lucky Dime, I don't think it's there yet. I don't think we have enough. But I think this could absolutely be a sleeper for the future, and depending on how many more queen cards we get, and maybe extra ways to rush them onto the board. And don't get me wrong, I know, like, when we're rushing things out, we're always vulnerable to be prepared. Some of them might be vulnerable to things like Grab Your Swords, especially the 1 cost 2/2, but that's probably the one you're shifting, and then you want a board of of this cruelest of all one, and things like that. So yeah, I'm not saying I think this is going to be meta changing this format. I think there's definitely a semi-competitive fun deck there already, maybe. But I think in the future this could be a heck of a sleeper. I'm a big fan of it. And let's also talk about the other queen that we're getting in this set. So lots of queens. Head of the Council. Another fantastic art, and again, establishing this whole multiple queens thing. 4 cost uninkable, 3/2, quest for 2. She also has ward, and reunites the villains. Oh, speak to me. Reunite the villains. Let's go. When you play this character, look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You may reveal each character named the queen and put them into your hand, but the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. Love that this is on play. So yeah, you could do that curve of Amber 1-drop queen. Turn 2, you play the other new one, the cruelest of all. Turn 3, you shift into this one, and she could potentially quest for 3 on that turn, depending on your opponent's board and whether or not that's safe. Turn 4, put this down, get yourself some more queens, and then obviously it's not going to be until turn 5 until you could play like a 1 and a 2, by which point you are getting closer to that be prepared turn. So you have to be careful, but yeah, I think there's already a semi-competitive fun deck here, and I think in the future, with whatever more support this gets, this whole flooding the board with queens gets, then yeah, I absolutely think that this Fairest in the Land could be pretty strong in the future. Going on now to the Sheriff of Nottingham, Old Moneybags. He is a 9-cost uninkable, 5/9, quests for 4. He has support, and every little bit helps. For each item you have in play, you pay 1 less ink to play this character. So another one of these akin to Gaston, and we looked at the, what's his name? Is it Kristoff? The one from Frozen that is based on songs. But yeah, we and Chernobog, obviously. So, yeah, Sapphire decks, obviously, especially if you combine with Steel, but even combined with Ruby, they have cheap items. It's not unrealistic to have potentially 4, 5, 6 items on the board, although I think that's more in the late part of the game. Like, that's post-Tamatoa. Because, obviously, in the first few turns of the game, you could be, like, let's assume you're Sapphire Steel. You can be going Porb, you can be going forward to Sphere, you could be putting down Fishbone Quill. Some decks are playing the Dragon, the Dragon one, the one that is like Fishbone, but from the discard. The name escapes me. But at the same time, you're quite often trying to get off a couple of Flavershams. I don't think that this is necessarily in the first 5, 6, 7 turns of the game. It's possible, you could absolutely do that if you literally just like play as many items as you can with your turn, but again, you got to be like controlling the board to an extent. But it's possible that you could get enough items down in the first few turns to get this out turn 5, 6. That could absolutely be a thing. However, I think if you're doing that, then you're not really playing characters, then you just fall to B-King or Tremaine or something like that. However, I think post-Tamatoa, when you've had a chance to recycle some of these items, you've had a chance to get your lucky dime down onto the board, then this becomes a little bit more realistic that you could get this down for like real cheap. Make a big turn with a Tamatoa, tilt your dime, and then maybe you've got enough to put this down as well. But then you are really overextending. In some games that's going to be fine. Some games you need to do that, and this is going to be what you need to get you to game. I don't know. I'm not completely sold on it, to be honest. The stat line is insane. It's so bulky and hard to remove. Unfortunately, it falls to the World's Greatest Criminal Mind and similar effects, like on the mini. The World's Greatest Criminal Mind is the main meta one that is going to annoy this. Same as ever Tamatoa, but at least Tamatoa has come into playability. But you could potentially play this cheap. I don't know. I'm not completely sold. Like I haven't been doing like anything on screen, but in my head I'm just putting everything into it will see play, it might see play, it's not seeing play. Just keeping it simple. And I think I'm more on the it might see play. It definitely wouldn't be a high count. Because again, it's also going to be dependent on you having extra characters down just to protect yourself against Tremaine and B-King. I don't know. I'm not completely sold on this. I know I saw a tweet by R&B, who is a big Sapphire player, very, very good player, saying that he was a fan of this. But again, I think that was day one, and maybe that was serious, maybe it wasn't. I'm sure he'll let us know. If it turns out to be good, I feel like R&B's the one to find out. I'm not completely sold right now. Could be wrong, but super cool card. Next up, we've got Chica, Dedicated Mother. 2-cost uninkable, 2/1, quest for 1, support, and 1 on the way. During your turn, when you put a card into your inkwell, if it's the second card you've put into your inkwell this turn, you may draw a card. Now, I think this is pretty good. I think I'm more inclined to put this into the this will see play category. Being uninkable really hurts it. But yeah, I'm a big fan of this. You put this down on 2, so then turn 3, you ink, and then you play Mickey. That's immediately netting you another card. Or /and on turn 3, you have Chica sing 1 jump ahead. You probably don't want to do that because you don't want to make her vulnerable. And don't get me wrong, she's already vulnerable to things like Brawl. But she's only a 2-cost. That's not necessarily always going to be the end of the world. But yeah, even with Mickey or on turn 3, you just go Fishbone Quill. Because yeah, the idea of like, you play this and then on 3, you put down your Fishbone. You ink an extra card from your hand, but then you're immediately drawing. So you're replenishing yourself. And this could really help accumulate card control. I feel like it's probably more likely to be a Ruby Sapphire inclusion, if anything. But yeah, like How Far I'll Go is another one that can quite often come out on to, like, if you've got a Maui on board or a Grand Martala, put this down after inking, sing How Far I'll Go, you're drawing another card. Yeah, I quite like this. Again, falls to Brawl, muses, things like that. But it's only 2 cost. Being uninkable does hurt it, but yeah, I'm going to put this in my it will see play column. Next up, we've got another Prince John Gold Lover. Fantastic art, 4 cost inkable, 3/4, quest for 1. And beautiful, lovely taxes. Exert, play an item from your hand or discard with cost 5 or less for free. Exerted. A villainous schemer from Day to Night. So yeah, this ability is obviously strong, being able to, well, let's put it this way. I think if you're playing from discard, it's strong. Sometimes it's going to be fine from hand, because again, it's for free. It may be enabling you to get more out of your hand before singing a whole new world, potentially. But I think it's safe to say if you're doing this from discard, that's not a lot of the time going to be better because you're not losing card count, you're gaining cards. So that's really cool. As of yet, we have no 5 cost items, although there is one in the set to look at, which we'll move to next. But before getting to that, our most expensive items, the Tabar, the Eyes of Fate, Sardine Can, Vault Door, none of this sees play. Sword of Truth, Dinner Bell, Heart of Atlantis, we've got this still to look at. So yeah, none of these 4 costs really see play. And even if you move into 3, so, and like Sapphire, of course, yeah, play for free or get back a Fishbone or a Great Stone Dragon seems fine. Potentially Maui, Spellbook. And then you're getting to a point where it's so low cost that you think, is it really worth it? Of course, unless of course like you're getting back a Porpsicle that obviously draws you a card, or a Fortisphere. Potentially the Vitalis Sphere is not bad, but I just don't know if it's good enough. Plus, it's quite slow. Let's immediately jump to and have a look at that 5 cost item that we're getting in this set. Merlin's Carpet Bag. Really simple art, but I'm a big fan of this. I just like the Sword in the Stone. That's one that like really grew on me as I say grew on me. I rewatched it like a year ago. As I was getting into Lorcana, I rewatched a lot of Disney films, and this was one that I appreciated a lot more than when I was younger. But yeah, we've got 5 cost uninkable item and hockety pockety. Exert, pay 1, return an item card from your discard to your hand. So to finish off on Prince John, if you're playing this for free or getting this back, this is not bad value. And of course, as time goes on and we get more 5 cost items, then maybe it becomes a bit better. And there's a card in Ruby, which I feel like we kind of need to have a quick look at, just because it's kind of relevant, and I think will be relevant to some other cards that we'll talk about in other sets. We're getting a new Robin Hood, 4 cost uninkable, 1/4, quest for 2, and my greatest performance. Whenever this character quests, look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may reveal an action card with cost 6 or less and play it for free. Put the rest in your discard. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about Robin Hood right now. We'll do that when we get to Ruby. So the only part of this effect that I'm going to pay any attention to is put the rest into your discard. Now, this is the first card that we've had that does something like this. I said a while back, let me know if you remember, I talked about a card from Yu-Gi-Oh! Called Card Trooper, which had an effect. You could put the top 3 cards of your deck into the discard, and it gained attack for each one. But the point being, it had synergy just because from other cards that had synergy with the graveyard / discard pile, it was cool to just put things in your discard and then they would trigger. And this just sets a precedent. Like, it's the first card of its kind that does things like this, so I imagine we will see things like this in the future. And this is a way of funneling your discard and potentially being able to cheat out certain things. For like anything that says take something from your discard and put it in your hand or put it onto the field, suddenly there is synergy here with cards like this. I don't think this Robin, spoilers, I don't think this Robin Hood's going to see a ton of play because it has Honor Strength. It might end up finding its way into decks just because this ability is quite interesting. We'll talk about Robin Hood another day, but I just wanted to focus on the putting things into the discard. But yeah, obviously that has synergy with things like Merlin's Carpet Bag. If you're able to funnel a load of things and then just, if you've already got this on the board, then just exerting and paying 1 is very reasonable to put any card from your any item from your discard into your hand. So is this good enough now? Maybe. I mean, against discard decks, if you've been discarding items for your first few turns, and if you're able to get this down, 5 is quite late to get it down, but maybe we play it cheaper with something that reduced item cost. I think we've got something that reduced item cost, and if not, I'm sure we'll get one. Maybe there's a world where this just helps you replenish your hand, and of course you can cycle Porpsicles this way, play it, heal something, return it, draw. Obviously you exert, so you can only do it once per turn. I don't know, I don't think this is hugely powerful right off the bat, but there is definitely going to be some sort of item combo deck, which I think at current probably exists with, well, once we get this set, including this set, there's probably some semi-competitive fun item deck that utilizes this. I'm not sure if the main meta decks utilize this, even though there is item synergy, obviously Portacles, Fishbone Quills, Dimes with Tamatoa. I'm not sure if they would find room for this right now, but there's definitely a fun deck, and in the future, I think this is a strong effect that could see play in the future. Let's go back to a super interesting one now then. We've got Kozo, Selfish Emperor. They came through with the Emperor's New Groove cards in this set. You loves to see it. Give me another Llama Kozo though. I know we've got one. I want another. 6-cost Inkable. My god, like, I'm so shocked that this is not uninkable. Not because I think it should be, but I don't know, I'm just accustomed to semi-decent Kozo cards being uninkable. There's only been one Baker. Calm down, it's not that serious. Get on with it. It's a 3/5 quest for 2 abilities. Outplacement being the main one. When you play this character, you may put chosen item or location into its player's inkwell, face down and exerted. And we've got buy invite only, which is interesting as well. You just pay 4 ink, and your other characters gain resist 1 until the start of your next turn. Now that second ability is not why you play this, but who knows, one day, like maybe 1 out of 20 games, it might be relevant, and especially because you can do it multiple times. You don't need to exert. So like if you've already got an established board and you just need to like protect yourself against your opponent challenging, and as you start your turn, maybe you can use this 3 times. It's not unreasonable for Sapphire to have 12 ink. So yeah, it's not why you play it, but if you're the first for this ability to be like really, really relevant, let me know. But yeah, this first ability to immediately put an item or a location into the inkwell is super, super good, especially because Sapphire decks tend to struggle against Queen's Castle. Obviously, they've got, if you're with Steel, then you've got Rise of the Titans, and there's another card to look at in Sapphire that also deals with locations, which may make this not as necessary. I still think this is probably worth playing. But yeah, you can play it from turn 4. If you turn 3 Fishbone, you can turn 4 have a 6-drop. So that's great. Get rid of that early Queen's Castle. They're not likely to do it early though, I don't think. But later on in the game, when they get you to a point where they're like, okay, you don't have anything on board. If you're Sapphire Steel, you don't have access to Maui. So they're going to find that time where it's right for them to castle, and then this Kozo is going to come in at really clutch. Of course, it's a 6 cost, which again, you may prefer to look at the action. We'll look at that next. That does it for 2. But you're putting a body on the board, 3 strength, sad, dice of Medusa. But if you've got the ability off, then that's great. But you're also potentially putting lucky dimes into the inkwell, which is so, so good. Because obviously banishing them isn't always completely safe, because they can just get them back with Tamatoa. So yeah, I think even with the other card that we're going to look at next, which does a similar thing, I still think this sees play. Yeah, let's jump straight to it. We've got Hideaway, 2-cost Inkable. These ladies are the absolute worst. If you know, you know. Although I do love this art and the fact that they've got this is the Vitalis Sphere, I'm pretty sure. So these are all the spheres that they be transporting. So there'll be story going on here. Fauna, oh my, we dropped some. Meriwether, you mean you dropped some. They're gaslighters. That's all they do. Anyway. Put chosen item or location into its player's inkwell, face down or exerted. So it's the first part of that Kozo effect. So like I say, the fact that you can do this for 2 might make some players go this way instead. There is a chance that you don't see Kozo, and you definitely see one or the other of these, especially in Ruby Sapphire. If you're Sapphire Steel, you probably still play this over Rise of the Titans. It's only 1 cheaper, but I don't know if they care about funneling your inkwell. I don't know. Sapphire Steel players, let me know. Does this replace Rise of the Titans for you, or are you just going Kozo? But yeah, I'm pretty sure this sees play, and I think Kozo will still find its way into decks. But this one, I'm pretty confident we're going to see it. I'm going to leave Mufasa till last. We're going to go on to Ludwig von Drake. 5-cost inkable, 4/4, quest for 3. Yeah, he's a big boy. Question for 3 is really nice. Unfortunately, he falls and does not trade with Maui. So I think that's the main thing that's going to keep him out of contention. Maybe wrong. Like, again, as we looked at that Scrooge, maybe there are Sapphire builds that just go this more mid-range route. I'm not convinced of it, though. If I had to guess, I would say this won't see play. Next up, we've got Minnie Mouse, quick thinking inventor. Love this. Just they're in a food fight, like, oh, I'll rustle something up. 1-cost uninkable, 1/2, quest for 1, and cake catapult. When you play this character, chosen character gets -2 strength this turn. So it's akin to. Again, it's going to combo well with Brawl, Sisu Daring Visitor, Under the Sea, the Muses, things like that, and of course just being and Medusa, and of course just being able to help you make favourable trades in questing. The thing is, like, this is your 1-drop. I don't know, obviously you never want to play this on 1 because you're never getting any use out of it. I don't know, it's uninkable. I'm not sure if it's good enough, but there is a Floodborn mini in Amber, so if you want to play with Sapphire, then this might be a Floodborn option for you. I don't know. I think that being uninkable, I think this is quite unreasonable. I think this could have been, maybe not, -2 is a lot. I don't know, unless we need it for a shift target, then probably not going to see it. Next up, we've got Basil, Practiced Detective. This is my favourite Basil art so far. If you're new to the channel, Basil is my favourite Disney film. And we finally see Olivia Flaversham. She is the daughter of the Hiram Flaversham, that, for those of you that don't know Basil, but know Lorcana, yeah, she is his daughter. Top tier film. Go and watch this film, man. Yeah, love this art. And yes, here's a 1-drop 2/1 quest for 1 with support. And we've had for a while, I think it was since Rise of the Floodborn, this Floodborn, Basil the Great Mouse Detective, 6-cost inkable, 3/4, quest for 3, shift 5, and there's always a chance if you shift to play him, then you draw 2 cards. They did my boy so dirty making this shift 5. I think this is so unreasonable. I really do. I think this could have absolutely been shift 4. Quest, like, card draw is strong, but I mean, to Sapphire really, well, I suppose it's the same set. It got Flaversham. But I mean, if you're playing this on floor, then you're not playing a Flaversham. I don't know, man. I think they did my boy dirty here for this not being shift 4. Maybe because it quests for 3. But it goes to Medusa, man. Like, what's the worst that could happen if this had been shift 4? But yeah, if we ever do want to play him or any Floodborn Basil, then 9 times out of 10, this is going to be our shift target of choice. Next up, we've got Donald Duck, Focused Flatfoot. Next up, we've got Donald Duck, Focused Flatfoot, 5-cost inkable, 3/4, quest for 2, and Baffling Mystery. When you play this character, you may put the top card of your deck into your inkwell face down and exerted. Oh boy, ain't that familiar. They should have just called this Donald Duck Detective. I mean, he does have the detective characterization. But yeah, I don't think this is awful by any means. Like, if you go turn 3 Mickey, then you can turn 4 Donald. And that is some pretty good ramp. Falls to Medusa. But again, if you played it on turn 4, then you don't care. Questing for 2 each turn. It's alright, you know. Do I feel like it like... Sapphire Steel decks are playing hard-headed, which, yes, obviously banishes an item. I don't know, I just feel that this is quite good. It's just more ramp. And again, like, it depletes your need to necessarily Fishbone Quill and deplete your hand. Maybe you don't care. I don't know, I think it's alright. It might see play. Next up, Tanana, Wise Woman, 2-cost inkable, 1/3, quest for 1, and your brothers need guidance. I'm pretty sure this is Brother Bear. When you play this character, you remove up to 1 damage from chosen character of or location. No, this is not very good right now. The fact that it's a location as well, not as many cards have that. So maybe this fixes math in the future. Realistically, unless it's a shift target, it's not being seen. Next up, we've got Tipo, the entire family now up in here. Growing Sun, 2-cost inkable, 1/2, quest for 1. And Measure Me Again. When you play this character, you may put a card from your hand into your inkwell, face down and exerted. So a super interesting effect. It gives you a on-play Fishbone Quill trigger, which could be quite cool. Obviously, this is depleting your hand. Now, if you're going really aggressive early Whole New World, then this could be okay. Play this on 2. Immediately you're inking. It's like the same thing as a 1 jump ahead in the respect of it jumps you to turn 4 ink wise. But you could just play this on 2, and then you could play Flaversham on the 4, and then this could sing 1 jump ahead as well. It's all right. Like if you've got, like I said, if you're taking an aggressive whole new world line, then it could be cool. But if they deceive you, then you are probably it's not looking good. It's not looking good, bruv. But yeah, the more I think of it, if you just go this into Flaversham on 4, then maybe that's not awful. I'm not completely sold. It might see play. I think it's going to take a more experienced Sapphire mind than mine to work out if this is really worth it. Being inkable obviously helps a lot. Yeah, we might see him pop up. I don't think he is as strong as his mother, wherever she is, at Chica over here. But yeah, interesting card. And we'll just jump straight on to Belle of the Ball. 4-cost uninkable, beautiful artwork. What a stunning dress for the party. 2/3, quest for 2, ward and ushered into the party. When you play this character, your other characters gain ward into the start of your next turn. So super cool, immediately comparable to the Chapter 1 Aurora Dreaming Guardian or Sleepy Guardian, but she gives blanket ward to all of your characters. So obviously the difference being is this is only for a round, essentially. It's until the start of your next turn, which is obviously great. Whereas the other Aurora is just permanently. The other Aurora is a 5-cost, but she's inkable and she's a Floodborn, so you can, I think it's shift 3. But this having ward is super, super good. Yeah, I actually really like this card. The fact that it's got ward absolutely saves it. Because I think there's bounce potential here. Like, is this a good card for Blurple? Obviously the 4-drop slot is quite competitive against rabbits and things like that. Again, I'm not completely sold yet, but Aurora doesn't see play either. I do think this is better than Aurora in more situations than not. I don't know. It's a really interesting card. I'm going to hamper more on the side of it might see play. Like there's a rogue deck that might utilize this. I bet Spezzy's going to be the one to make this work. Yeah, it's not going to be mainstream, but it's definitely a good card that could find itself into a top cut list. Next up, we've got Merlin, Intellectual Visionary, one of our legendaries. 6-cost uninkable, 3/7, quest for 2, shift 5, and overdeveloped brain. When you play this character, if you used shift to play him, you may search your deck for any card, put that card into your hand, then shuffle your deck. So this is a true tutor, just taking any card and putting it into our hand. Which I'm not thrilled about, not necessarily because I think it's always overpowered, and spoiler, I don't think this card is overpowered, but just anything that reduces shuffling time. But meh, one of those things, it'll be fine. So yeah, let's talk about shift targets for a start. So we looked earlier at this one, which could be perfectly reasonable as a shift target, and we talked about the other Sapphire one from Chapter 1. But then obviously most of our Merlins are from Amethyst. We've got the squirrel, the crab, the goat, the rabbit, and the shapeshifter. So for now, the way to best utilize this is apparently going to be Blurple, which is kind of interesting. Now, if you're shifting onto your crab, I don't think that's a bad thing at all, because it already got its come into playability. Yes, you're denying the come out of playability, but that's not the end of the world. Normally you play a crab, boost something, immediately challenge. So I think that's pretty reasonable. Doing it on your goat is meh. Like, you still got the law for entering play, but then you are denying yourself that 1 law gain when he leaves play, because he's not that character anymore once you shift him. If you were thinking that you could shift the Floodborn Merlin on top of this, and then when that Floodborn is banished, then you would still get this goat effect. That is not true, similar to any of these come out of play abilities. It's not that character anymore. So that's not great, obviously, because you want to be bouncing these, or at the very least just gain the law when he's removed. And then obviously the rabbit, you got the draw when you played him, but you are denying yourself the come out of play ability. That being said, there are worlds where we can shift into the big Merlin, search for a card, and then bounce that, and then we get both of them back to our hand. So in a situation like that, then that's not awful. The problem is you're not consistently going to be able to get that off, because this Merlin has 3 strengths, so he's going to be Medusa. Don't get me wrong, You get the ability, the overdeveloped brain, when he comes into play, which is going to be your main reason for playing this as it is, but less likely that you're going to be able to shift this and then he's going to survive long enough for you to bounce it back to your hand and get both those Merlins back. Sometimes you'll get away with it, especially if you're not against Ruby, but not always consistent. But even if we assume that he's just coming down and then getting Medusa'd, is it still good enough, the fact that we're just tutoring any card from the deck? I think yes. I definitely think there is a place for this in meta. I think this is definitely a card that takes Blurple and makes it a much stronger archetype. The main shift target is this Merlin Squirrel, as it stands. And to be fair, there's a Merlin Crab, that tortoise or turtle that we're getting in Amethyst coming up, which is another one. I think that's a 4 cost. Might be a 3 cost. But yeah, there are a lot of targets for this. The rabbit and the goat are never going to be your most preferred target. But at the same time, it's not always going to be the end of the world, because, yes, alright, you're denying yourself that extra Merlin rabbit draw, but instead I'm just finding any card I want from my deck, which could be more draw or removal or whatever it might be. But yeah, outside of Amethyst, even if you just use this Merlin and the other new one that we're getting back from Bermuda as the shift target, if you're playing with Steel and finding a whole new world at the right time, that could be really cool. Yeah, I do think this card, I think this is very fair. Like, it's uninkable, the 3 strength, like, if ever a card should have had 3 strength, it's this one. But 7 willpower as well. Like, outside of Medusa, this is going to be hard to remove, but that being said, any deck with the Muses is just going to play Painting the Roses red, and then you're a 2 strength, and then they remove you with Muses. So I think it's very fair. How much play is it going to see? Some. There's going to be a couple of rogue decks. I don't think it is not broken. Spoilers, in my opinion. But yeah, a strong card that I'm definitely looking forward to tinkering around with. Next up, we've got Vision of the Future, 2-cost inkable action. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Put 1 into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. We must repair the Illuminary before it's too late, and we'll need these devices, these Chromacons, to fix it. More story going on up in here. So yeah, this is just a better develop your brain. Obviously more expensive, costing 2. But yeah, being able to look at the top 5 is some incredible dig. I talked a lot about, in Ursa's Return, the Dig a Little Deeper card, the Sing Together 7-cost card, where you look at the top 7 and you put 2 into your hand, which didn't see a lot of play until the DLC in Texas the other week, where someone made top 16. I think it was Din, in a Ruby Sapphire build, and they were utilizing Dig a Little Deeper and really enjoying it. But of course that can be sung. But yeah, like, this is only a 2 cost, which is super cheap. And yeah, a 5-card dig seems super good. Yeah, I think this sees play. Next up, we've got Royal Tantrum, 4-cost uninkable action. Banish any number of your items, then draw a card for each item banished this way. I am king, king, king. That was not his voice at all. I am the king, king, king. That's it. It's more high-pitched. So yeah, this is getting an enchanted, and the amount of people I have seen question why this is getting an enchanted, I just don't understand. Not every enchanted is going to be a major playable card. I'm glad we get some that are enchanted, like Maui, Ballroom Sensation, Cinderella, and there's others. But yeah, they should absolutely be enchanted love given to not necessarily meta cards. But that being said, like, you never know what's going to get good in the future. As it stands right now, I don't think this is great. I don't think it's very good synergy. Normally you want to be building up those items, even though you're drawing a card for each one, but you -1 yourself just for playing this. And then for each item that you remove, you're drawing cards. I mean, sometimes you're not going to care if they were porpsicles, then you drew from them anyway. But I don't think this is good right now. However, I think in the future, when we get, if and when we get items that have come out of play abilities, like, imagine a 2-cost porpsicle, which is draw a card when you play it and when it's removed. Or other similar effects, like if this item is banished, then gain a law, or things like that, then this could absolutely be a really powerful combo piece. So right now, no, but for the future, I'm going to be picking up a playset. Ever just the same as the sun will rise. Beautiful classic song. 2-cost inkable. Remove up to 2 damage from chosen characters. So that's as many characters as you want, and it can be your opponent's field as well, which is probably the more interesting part of this, to heal up Mulans or Mother Gothels to offset Rapunzels. It's not good enough to play just for that reason as it stands, unfortunately. But yeah, Blanket heal of 2 is not bad. It's one of the better heal cards. Hey, this might be a card that you would play with Tamatoa, Grandpuppy, if that sort of deck ever comes back. As for now, probably not, but love the art. Next up, we've got I'm Not Having Fun Anymore. There's my my Llama Kuzco card. All right, fair enough. All right, bet. 1 cost inkable. Choose one of your characters and put it into your inkwell face down and exert it. This is a -2. This is a bad card. Do not play it. Next up, we've got Medal of Heroes from Wreck-It Ralph. 2 cost inkable item. Exert and pay 2. Banish this item. Chosen character of yours gets +2 lore this turn. I think this, in a dime-based deck, is absolutely insane. You already think of, like, Tamatoa getting up to 5, 6, 7, 8. Heck, I have casted games where that thing got up to 10 lore. And this is going to be another way that you can help it. Don't get me wrong, like, it's kind of counterproductive because having this Medal of Heroes gives the Tamatoa +1, and then you banish this, and then it loses that +1, but then goes +2. So if you think of it in that respect, it only goes up 1, but whatever, it's still fine. Even use this with an aerial and make her a 7, and then quest and then dime. That's 14. Yeah, I really like this card. I don't know how many copies of it you necessarily see, but inkable, 2 cost. Yeah, this is reach. Yeah, I would hazard a guess this is going to see play. Next up, we've got Basil's Magnifying Glass. Loving the love for Basil the Great Mouse Detective in this set. 2 cost inkable item. Find what's hidden. Exert, pay 2. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You may reveal an item card and put it into your hand, but the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. So this is similar to the Scuttle effect on an item. You only look at the top 3 as opposed to the 4, which is Scuttle, but in every other respect, it's very much the same. You pay 2. Like, you have to pay 2 to play this, and then you have to pay 2 to exert and use the ability. But yeah, if you got this down on turn 2, then at any point in the game, it's similar to Scuttle. You pay 2, and you have a 3-card dig to look for items. Of course, Scuttle, like being a body, can protect you against Medusas and Tremaines and just be something that can quest and sing low-level songs, which is sometimes better. But then this is an item which could potentially be Flavershammed. It can be getting something boosting Tamatoa and just that item synergy that we talk about. I don't think it's good enough, unfortunately. I think this Exert plus pay 2 is probably a bit too expensive. The ability, I think, is strong. It's helping you find your lucky dime or helping you get closer to the dime, which is another reason I like Scuttle. I'm not sure if it's good enough. Again, there's probably an item combo deck that utilizes this, but whether or not it makes its way into the main Sapphire meta decks, probably not. We've got Sapphire Chromacon, 4 cost uninkable item, powering up. This item enters play exerted. And Sapphire Light, exert, pay 2, banish one of your items, gain 2 lore. So it kind of reminds me of this Triton that we got in Ursa's Return, 3 cost uninkable, 3 quest for 1, exert, banish one of your items, gain 3 lore. So of course this is a body. It's a little slow. You have to survive the full turn before you can use this, but it is a little bit more reach in terms of that lore gain. But sometimes having the item is going to be more preferable for all the reasons that we keep listing. Just the item synergy with Tamatoa or things like Flaversham. Removing a 4 cost with Flaversham is probably not going to feel great, but you can do it in a pinch. It's all right. I don't think this is good enough for what you're getting, unfortunately. Like, the reach is nice. But being uninkable, I don't think there's room. Now on to our locations. First of all, the Great Illuminary. Had to know this was going to happen sooner rather than later. Another beautiful artwork. 3 cost inkable, 2/9. We hate 2. We hate 2 to move there. And Warm Welcome. Characters with support get +1 lore and +2 willpower while here. So obviously that is quite a strong ability, so maybe it needed the 2 to move there, otherwise maybe things would have got out of hand. No passive lore gain, 9 willpower. So these are our support characters. Obviously there's things like Alice that gives everything else support while on board, so maybe there is some synergy there. I don't know, you're moving the Hey Hey or the Olaf, or like maybe at a push these 2 cost ones, then they become questing for 2, and the extra willpower, maybe they're surviving a little bit more. I don't know. It just doesn't particularly astound me. It doesn't feel like I'm doing much to It doesn't feel like I'm doing much, unfortunately. Like, yeah, it is reach, which should never be underestimated. But again, 2 to move there. As we get more synergy in cards to make it easier to move characters to locations. And I know we've got a couple. Tuk Tuk, Map of Treasure Planet, if you really want to go that direction. I don't think this is good enough for now. I don't know. I could be proved wrong on this because +2 willpower is not insignificant, and of course extra law is extra law. But it's not something that I immediately feel the need to go and playtest. I don't know. Let me know if I'm wrong about the Great Illuminary. And then we've got Merlin's Cottage, 1 cost inkable, 1/7, and Knowledge is Power. Each player plays with the top card of their deck face up. This very much reminds me of, from my Yu-Gi-Oh days, Convulsion of Nature, which was similar. You just turned your deck upside down and played like that. So obviously all the cards that benefit from knowing the top card of the deck, obviously like this card, things like the Sorcerer's Hat, Bruno, and even things like knowing if it's a good time to trade your Mufasa. So yeah, any deck that wants to benefit from those knowing the top card of the deck effects, probably not Mufasa. I think Amethyst Sapphire is the way to go and benefit from Sorcerer's Hat and Bruno and things like that. Then obviously there's incredible synergy here, and this is an absolute add in that archetype. And yeah, just information in general, like knowing what your opponent is about to top. Worth mentioning as well, like if you play something like Friends on the Other Side or Whole New World, anything that's making you draw multiple cards, you do have to reveal each card to your opponent. Like someone's got Merlin's Cottage on the board, so both our decks are face up. If we play a Whole New World, discard your hand. They already know what the top card is, so I draw that. I have to flip the next card up, show them before I draw it, or it will probably just get to a point where players will just draw 7 and then put them down the table and let each other just look at them, and that will probably become the courteous way to do it, just because it sounds quicker. But yeah, you do have to reveal every single card. But yeah, it is a fantastic support card for those Amethyst cards that care about knowing the top card of the deck. So there's definitely a fun deck to be built there, and who knows, in the future it could get stronger and stronger and stronger. And we're going to finish off on the big legendary that everyone was talking about, Mufasa, Ruler of Pride Rock. 8 cost uninkable, 4/9 stat line, quest for 4, and 2 abilities. A Delicate Balance. When you play this character, exert all cards in your inkwell, then return 2 cards at random from your inkwell to your hand. And everything the light touches. Whenever this... I could have been the voice of Mufasa. Well, I'm never as good as the original. Let's put my hands up to that straight away. But I don't know, man. I feel like I could do it. Whenever this character quests, ready all cards in your inkwell. So, this is obviously a very powerful effect. Super unique. And this artwork, absolutely stunning. So let's look at this one bit at a time. First of all, Delicate Balance. When you play this character, exert all cards in your inkwell. I don't think that is very often going to be very relevant, because you're either playing this in a turn where you have exactly the 8 ink you need, or if you had more, then you play other things before playing this. So vastly more often than not, I think that's fine. Then return 2 cards at random from your inkwell to your hand. So I saw a couple of people say, like, well, if you're inking them, then how good could they be? But I don't agree with that at all. Like, if you're playing with Ruby and you're inking early things like Maleficent Monstrous Dragon. And again, just if you've played much Lorcana, you know sometimes you have to ink good stuff because you just have to ink it to play the hand that you've got and to play the board state you've got. And even if you're inking uninkables with Fishbone Quill, things like that, I think there's every reason to believe that there could be and should be good stuff in your inkwell. And hey, if it's in your deck, it's probably good. Don't get me wrong, like you might end up with Fishbone Quill or just from normal inking something that you know is never relevant in that particular matchup. And if that's what you get back, then that's probably not going to feel great, but hey, then it's just more ink, either because it's inkable or you fishbone it again. So yeah, this +2 could absolutely be relevant. And I do think that is probably the best effect on this card. I do think that's the best bit of text on this card, just the immediate +2. In a way, it's counterproductive, because like, say you play this when you've got 8 ink, which could be earlier than turn 8 because you're ramping. But then you've just spent time inking and playing Fishbone, getting up to the ink you need. You play this, and then you're taking ink away. But maybe that's still fine because you got this huge body on the board that your opponent now may struggle to answer, and then we just ink those cards again, whether it's because we ink normally or with Fishbone Quill. So in a way, it's counterproductive, but not necessarily the end of the world. It kind of sets you back a turn if you're a Sapphire player that wants to get to that 12, 14, 16 marks so they can make like double dime and then double tilt dime plays. But maybe just getting this big body down, and again it's immediate +2, is good enough that that's okay. And then everything the light touches, whenever this character quests, ready all cards in your inkwell. So again, a super unique effect. You basically get to completely replenish your ink resource. So if we imagine that we've had this down for a turn, let's say it's been down for a turn, its ink is dry, it's survived the turn, it's not been removed. You make a play where you're playing cards and you're spending ink, and then you quest with this and you re-ready all your ink. Now, I don't think that part of the effect is always going to be as online or as strong or as even preferable to utilize as some people might think, because again, let's say we got this down, it survived the full turn, and we've got 8 ink. We use that 8 ink to do something. Maybe we play a big body like a Gaston or an Ariel or like something big in that mid to late range stage for a deck like this. If we then quest with this and then re-ready our ink and then put down another big body, I think that super plays into Be Prepared. And don't get me wrong, sometimes that's going to be fine. Maybe it's a point of the game where they've gone through a couple, or maybe you're not even facing Ruby. Then that's probably fine to overextend your hand a lot more. But if you don't have much of a hand left, then you're putting it all on the board and saying, I don't think you can answer this, which if they can, again, like Ruby decks are really going to be able to do it consistently, whether it's because they Be Prepared or they go Tremaine and then something sings Be King Undisputed and they remove your 2 big bodies. And hey, I think if you are playing something big, questing this, re-readying your ink, and then using that re-readied ink to funnel other resources, like you're now tilting your dime, or using other item cards that have an ink cost, maybe that then makes it a bit better. So it's still a good ability, but I don't think that part of the ability is always going to be as relevant as the first part. I could be completely wrong there. Like if it's at a really late stage in the game where you've got 12, 13 ink and like both players are in their last like 20 cards of their deck, they've gone through a bunch of resources. If you can get this down and make it stick and then make a turn where you can immediately go, okay, I play a big body and now I quest with Mufasa, re-ready my ink, and now I've got enough ink to play my lucky dime and tilt my dime. I don't know, I think I'm talking myself more into... I was kind of in the middle about this, and the more I've talked about it, maybe I'm leaning more into it is very, very good. It's got perfect stats as well. Obviously, 9 is super tough to remove, and having 4 means it's out of Medusa and it's out of World's Greatest Criminal Mind. I always feel like this should have been 5, just so it was answerable to the World's Greatest Criminal Mind. That being said, Be Prepared is obviously a card. And Tremaine and not Medusa at all. Tremaine and Be King could potentially have a field day with this, but if you can get this down along with a couple of extra characters, I don't think one extra character is necessarily safe because they just go Tremaine and then they sing Be King with a 4-drop on the board, which is fairly reliable board state. It's a 1 or a 2 off, I think. I do think it sees early play, because this just, in theory, seems really, really good. I'm in the middle, but I'm verging more towards the it will see play, it will be meta. But I'm not all the way there. Let me know if you let me know. Let me hear what I need to hear to either get me all the way on this bandwagon, or to reassure me that, no, Baker, you are kind of right to be a bit hesitant about how good you feel this is going to be. And I try not to be too wishy-washy with my card reviews. I do try and put my flag in the ground, one way or the other. I'm leaning more towards it being good, but I don't know. It's in some ways a bit slow. But again, like the immediate +2 to your hand, I think is maybe what makes it good enough. Like even if it is immediately removed, at least you got that +2 and you made them use removal, and then that's one less bit of removal for your Tamatoa. Yeah, it's probably good, isn't it? I don't know, let me know in the comments, drag me one way or the other, we'll see. But yeah, that is all of our Sapphire cards. So just to do a roundup, I think Merlin's Carpet Bag in the future is one to absolutely look out for. I think Medal of Heroes is going to see play immediately. I think that's I don't know how many counts, but I think the extra reach that can give you just seems really, really good. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's because it's a terrible top deck. If like, maybe it's a win more card. Maybe it is a win more card, and it's not offering enough value just on its own. I may be off the mark about Medal of Heroes. Let me know down in the comments, but it's definitely one that interests me. Vision of the Future really interests me. I think a 5-card dig is super good. Merlin, I think, is really fair. I think you'll see it in fun and rogue decks, but he's not taking over the meta by any means. This Bell, I'm leaning more on the side of it being good. But I don't know. I'm still a bit wishy-washy on this one. I think in Blurple, where you could potentially reuse this, I don't know, even outside, she's maybe a bit expensive and uninkable. I don't know. There's a few cards in this Sapphire set that I'm struggling to completely place. And Belle kind of falls into that for me as well. I've talked about Mufasa a lot just now. Kozo, I think, sees play. I think this Chica is going to end up seeing play. This Queen, not now. Well, a fun deck now, but in the future, I think this could be really good. Obviously, this Queen supports her. And that's probably about it for really impactful things. Like I said, this Merlin's Cottage helps the fun archetype, and that could get better and better in time. This Donald Duck is kind of interesting, as is this Tipo. Yeah, Sapphire definitely has some toys to play with in the next set. But what do you think of the upcoming Sapphire cards? What are you excited to play with? What have I got wrong? What have I said is better than you think it's going to be? What have I not given enough credit for? Let me know. Let's discuss it. And yeah, I'm just excited to start playtesting with this new set. Are you excited? Let me know down below. But that's it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you're brand new to the channel, please subscribe for all things Lorcana. Hit that like button to show support, and we'll see you soon.